Hello everyone. Well, it's finally time for us to go over the second class change of the Wayfarer class, and that is the Eagle Eye. And once again, I find myself possessed with a singular emotion, and that is jealousy. When I look over at my wife's screen and see her Eagle Eye doing insane damage and super cool skills, I look at my Nightweaver and I wonder, where has it all gone wrong? So yes, Eagle Eye is a sick class. It is huge damage output and it looks really cool. It is another rapid fire machine gun style class like the previous two Wayfarer and Ranger, and Eagle Eye takes it up yet another notch. So I would say if you're playing an Eagle Eye, you should feel very happy because this is probably the highest, it is certainly a contender for the highest DPS in Class Change 2. The damage potential and the skill synergies are just straight up insane. So, with all that said, let's jump right into the guide starting with the skills. And as always, we're going to be starting off with the core skill. Now, the skills loadout that I have here is the best in slot. However, there are a couple passives that will change in AoE situations. And we'll cover those when we get to passive skills. So, starting off, we have our core skill, which is called Focus Shot. Focus Shot is a very interesting core skill, so let's read it together. Can be cast when energy reaches 600 or max. Upon casting, continuously fire arrows at the target. Each arrow consumes 135 energy and deals ice damage. Plus, each arrow fired for the duration also applies 1 stack of focus to yourself, increasing your channel frequency by 12% up to 5 stacks until the channel ends. So, we have a channeling type ability as the main core skill for this class. So how does this work exactly? We've read the description, and how this works is you have the core skill. When it reaches max energy, it casts, and then while you're regenerating energy, it fires arrows at the target. Each arrow costs a certain amount of energy, 135 energy, and if you run out of energy all the way to 0, it stops the channeling. So the easiest way I can show this is let's hop into a Waves of Horror run very quickly and see how this is in action. And here we are. Take a look at the bottom right of the screen and look at the core skill. So it fills up, and then look at this chunking down. So each chunk is an arrow being fired. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There, you can see. So fills up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every time you see the energy fill up, then it starts chunking down. Each one of those chunks is it firing an arrow, and if you run out of energy, it stops the channeling, and then you refill your energy again for the next core skill cast, and then there it goes again. So you're basically firing arrows as often as you can until you run out of energy. So the core aspect of this class is you're trying to get as much energy regen and energy as possible so that you can fire as many arrows as possible before you reach 0 and the channeling of this skill stops. And as you can see here, with each arrow you get the stack of focus, which increases your channel frequency, so it gets faster and faster. Very, very epic core skill. And now we see how that works. So I will say that this is a class where 75% of your total damage output is going to come from your core skill. And with that in mind, almost every single skill in our loadout exists to buff the core skill. At least in single target. There are some slight differences in AoE, like I said, but let's focus on single target for now, starting off with the tactical skills. And the synergies here are wild. And let's start off with Icy Retribution Domain. So Icy Retribution Domain, it basically puts a symbol down on the ground, and the way it works, it says here, deals X ice damage to the target and surrounding enemies, so this is an AoE, and while the domain exists, every hit of ice damage you deal has a 5% chance to deal single target damage to the target for 8 seconds. So this is basically a very nice damage boost, and actually I would say this is your third highest damage dealing skill in your loadout. Majority of the damage comes from your core skill, then there's another passive which is second, and then this being the third source of damage in your build. So basically every hit you do has a 5% chance to trigger this damage effect another time, so it's a nice AoE damage source. And of course, in single target as well, it does do a lot of damage. Anyway, so moving on to the next tactical skill, we have Swift Thinking. Now, we already understand how this class works, and when you read this, it's gonna fall into place just how insane the synergy is. So Swift Thinking, upon casting, increase your haste by 20%. And restore 105 energy for every 3 hits of core skill damage for 5 seconds. And increase your core skill damage for the duration? Hello! Do I need to explain why this is so good for this build? So Haste, for those who don't know, let's quickly go into skills, stats, and click on Haste here. Increases the cast, recite, and channel speed. So, you guessed it, Haste increases our channel speed, which is integral for our build here, because that causes the channel speed of the core skill to be even faster. Very, very essential. Plus, you can see here, every 3 arrows, you get a refund of 105 energy, which is like basically a 25% energy refund every 3rd arrow, which is very, very nice. And the core skill damage increase is just a nice bonus on top of it. It's like a perfect synergy for this class. And you have this this haste, this core skill damage increase, and the energy refund after every 3 arrows hit the target. Very nice. So I think that's pretty well understood why that's a really good skill for this class. And moving on now to Focused Mind, which is the 3rd tactical skill. So Focused Mind. Upon casting, immediately restore 500 energy and increase your core skill damage by 32% for 7 seconds. So again, this is a very, very easy to understand synergy. Whenever you cast this, you immediately gain 500 energy. That means if you've just finished casting your core skill, it's going to be basically instantly ready very quickly after you cast this tactical skill. However, if you're currently channeling your core skill and this tactical skill goes off, you're going to get an extra 500 energy added to your pool that you can cast additional arrows with before reaching 0 and the channeling stops. So a very, very nice synergy there with the core skill. So that's how the tactical skills and core skills work, and you can see here, like I said, how everything is all tied back into the core to increase the effectiveness and damage output of the core skill, where we're still trying to fire as many arrows as we can without hitting 0 by increasing our energy regen, our available energy, energy refunds, energy increase here. So that's where this build is centered around. Now let's move on to the passive skills. Starting off with the most important passive skill by far, and that is Ice Phantom Bow. So the way this works is it summons these phantom bows that stay by your side and attack enemies with these huge AoE bursts. This very, very cool looking skill. And you have at the start 1 phantom bow, and it consumes energy per shot. And after getting 3 focus stacks, if we remember, the focus stacks come from arrows in the core skill. So if you have 3 arrows from the core skill, you'll get 3 focus stacks, which summons a 2nd phantom bow. So now you'll have 2 phantom bows dealing massive amounts of damage. Now, this is a very good damage source. It is your 2nd highest damage after your core skill in single target situations. However, it is going to be your number 1 source of damage in AoE situations, and the damage output is purely insane. This is the absolute rapid-fire machine gun style gameplay, and it just goes nuts in AoE, especially in something like waves. You just see these bows firing rapid fire like crazy. It's a lot of fun to watch. And now let's move on to the next passive skill in the list, and it is another very essential passive skill that is integral to this build, and when you see the synergy, you'll understand very quickly why this is so good. So Winter Archery. It increases the stack limit of focus by 2, and after you reach 4 focus stacks, further increase channel frequency by 20%, and it increases skill damage by 35% until the channel ends, and it increases ice damage by 57%. What the heck is this? This is some kind of crazy skill. And you'd be right, it is a crazy, crazy skill. So we increase these stacks of focus, as you can see here. Every 1 arrow creates a stack of focus up to 5 stacks here, and this allows us to expand our focus stacks. So very, very nice. And once you reach 4 focus stacks, you have these additional buffs which are significant. So this is a very, very nice damage increasing passive skill that you can see features all of the things that we're looking to do with our build, increasing channel frequency and tons more damage plus the increased focus stacks. Very, very essential and nice passive skill for our build. Now, next up we have the two passive skills that are the ones that we will be swapping out in AoE situations, so keep that in mind that we'll go through the AoE versions after I run through the rest of these three passives. So, starting off, we have Energized Arrow. Every 5 hits of skill damage dealt, and just to clarify for those who are confused, skill damage includes core skill, passive skill, and tactical skill. So every 5 hits of skill damage dealt, increase core skill damage by 8.8% for 8 seconds up to 5 stacks. Now, because this is an 8-second 8-second duration, this means it's very easy for us to keep this fully stacked at all 5 stacks. So you can basically consider this tactical skill a permanent 45%, practically 45% damage increase. So very, very nice skill here. So core skill damage increase, of course. So anyway, another very good passive skill here, Energized Arrow. And next up we have Quick Reload, which is another one of these single target specific skills that gets swapped out in AoE. And let's read this one. After 4 times of core skill damage hit to the current enemy, reduce the energy cost of the core skill by 35 for 4 seconds. Plus it increases core skill damage again by 21%. So this is another really, really nice passive. So you can see here, every 4 hits of core skill damage, this translates to us as every 4 arrows that hits the enemy, you have a 4-second duration reduction of the core skill energy by 35. That means for those 4 seconds, instead of costing 135 energy per arrow, it's only going to cost 100 energy per arrow. So that's a very nice little boost and reduces the energy cost of the arrows, allowing us to fire out more arrows before reaching 0 energy. And next up, we have the final passive skill here, and that is Resonance. This is a very straightforward skill. It is simply a damage boost. For every 5 hits of damage dealt by the core skill, increase overall skill damage by 6% for 4 seconds up to 5 stacks. So with this fully stacked, you'll be having a 30% skill damage increase, which is very nice indeed. So there you have it. That is all of these skills for the single target loadout for Eagle Eye. And now I'm going to quickly swap over to the group preset, the AoE preset, which is what you're going to use in AoE situations, primarily like in Waves of Horror, for example. And as you can see here, everything else is the same except for these 2 passive skills here. And let's understand why that is. So the first that we've swapped into is Leaf Storm. Now I will say there is another AoE passive skill called Exploding Icicles that on paper is supposed to be more damage than Leaf Storm. However, in practice we've done testing and found that it actually is very underwhelming and doesn't perform as well as you'd expect. So instead we're going to recommend running Leaf Storm, because what this does is, yes, it has this nature damage dealt to current target. Doesn't really matter. This isn't why we run the skill. It's because we have this skill damage increase. So it is an AoE skill damage increase for all targets hit for 5 seconds, which translates to a bigger DPS increase than this Exploding Icicles here. So that's a very essential change there, because this is slightly more DPS than the other alternative. Now keep in mind, in AoE we are going to be getting most of our damage from Ice Phantom Bow, so that's our #1 damage source in AoE as opposed to our core skill in single target situations. The second passive skill that gets changed to AoE is going to be Tactical Precedence. After casting any tactical skill, increase skill damage by 7.4% for 7 seconds up to 3 stacks. Now, since, like I said, all of our damage, or the vast majority of our damage, is going to be coming from a passive skill instead of just a core skill, it's good that we can get some more general skill damage increase instead of just core skill damage increase. So that's the main reason we swapped to Tactical Precedence for AoE. Now, we fully understand all of these skills for the Eagle Eye, and now we have the real interesting stuff coming. We have talents. And trust me, when you see some of these synergies, you're going to understand how epic this is, because the talents for Eagle Eye work into the build so nicely that it creates some amazing effects. So, right off the bat, I will say that you're going to run Vigor Circle as your secondary, and the third is a bit of a flex slot. Right now, Natasha is running Lightning Reflex, which is a determination increase, and as well, you get this nice boost here when triggering determination, increase the damage of the hit by 5%. So this is an alternative one to run here. You could basically swap this out, but determination plus Vigor Circle is very, very good. And then in focus shooting, you're going to have a single target loadout and an AoE loadout. So let's start with the single target, which is going to be left, right, left, left, left. So let's go through these talents and understand why they're so good in a single target situation. Now, energy convergence. Upon entering battle, immediately restore all energy and increase natural energy recovery by 50% for 10 seconds. Very, very good. You know, we're always on the lookout for anything that increases our energy regen, so this gives you basically a nice energy boost at the start of every battle, so no issues taking that one. Very, very nice one. Next up we have Haste Blessing. 30 seconds after the start of battle, increased haste by 15% until the end of battle. Now we've already established that haste increases our channel speed, so this is another very nice buff to our haste, which is going to increase the channel speed of our core skill for the rest of the battle after 30 seconds has passed. So a very nice bonus buff as well. Next, now we swap over to the left side for the rest here, and let's start with concentration. So concentration, each stack of focus, which we know comes from the core skill every time an arrow hits up to a certain number of stacks, provides an additional 8% in natural energy recovery. This is very nice because every time you get a stack of focus, you're now going to have an increased energy recovery. So if you have 5 stacks of focus, that's a 40% increase in energy recovery. So very, very nice to have, and the more energy recovery we can get, the closer we can get to the dream state, which is being able to shoot arrows without running out of energy from your core skill. Next up we have Icy Arrow Strike, which is increasing the chance to trigger the Icy Retribution domain, which is the tactical skill, by 10% when dealing ice damage. This is another very nice DPS boost, since Icy Retribution domain classically has a 5% chance to trigger, but this converts it to a 15% chance to trigger. So that is a very nice stability and damage increase as well. And then, as they say, last but not least, you have the ultimate talent at the bottom of the talent tree on the left hand side, and this is the real deal. Now, listen to this. Increase focused shooting damage by 15%. Nice. Every 8 arrows fired with focused shooting, increase ice damage by 2% and natural energy recovery by 3%. Max 40 stacks. That's right, 40 stacks. Not 4, 40. This means as the battle goes on and you get more and more stacks of this, you can go up to 80% ice damage increase, and more importantly, 120% increase to your natural energy recovery. This means that with this talent, once you reach very high stacks, you will achieve the true dream state, and that is, it is possible, if you have the right stats, to have infinite core skill. That means you will start channeling your core skill and you will never run out of energy. You will constantly cast your arrows over and over and over again, and you'll never run out of energy. You'll never hit zero. You'll never stop channeling. And that is why this talent is so darn good for a single target. And I've seen this in action. I was doing actually a slime fight with Natasha earlier today, and we were both doing around the same damage until around a certain point, you know, we're both at the 900 million mark, and then all of a sudden her damage starts going 1G, 1.1G, 1.2G, 1.3G, 1.4G, and it kept going, and it kept going and going and going until the end of the fight, ending up at 1.6 Gs per second. And that was because she reached that point where she no longer stopped channeling her core skill. It was on permanent channel, shooting arrows non-stop, and the damage output is absurd. This class is bonkers because of this talent and because of the damage output when you have a channeled core skill that never runs out of energy and constantly fires arrows. So that's why this is so darn good. Next up, let's go look at the AoE talent build. And this one's very easy. It's simply full right. Full right side. That is your AoE build. That's all you need to know. Full right side. So let's start with the top talent again and work our way down to understand why this is better. Remember that in AoE situations, the majority of our damage is no longer coming from our core skill, but instead from our passive skill, the Phantom Ice Bows. The Ice Phantom Bow, excuse me. So the first talent is Tempered Ice Arrow. When casting Swift Thinking for the first time at the start of battle, increase ice damage by 20% for 10 seconds. Now this is better for us than the Energy Convergence because, like I said, we're getting a ice damage increase which does affect our Phantom Bows, so that's a nice increase at the start of battle to their damage output. Next up, we do have Haste Blessing again because the Haste is a very nice stat to have no matter what you're doing, as you do still need to have an increase for getting more hits off. Next up, you have Cold Aftermath, which is after dealing ice damage to the current target, increase ice damage by 1% for 3 seconds up to 10 times, which basically means as all of your skills do ice damage, this is basically a 10% ice damage increase because it'll almost always be active. So a very nice little damage increase there. Next up, we have Phantom Bow Strike. It increases the chance for the Ice Phantom Bow to trigger Icy Retribution domain by 15%, which is another very nice DPS increase in AoE. So you have the Icy Retribution domain cast, and then using your Ice Phantom Bow, it gives you a 20% chance now instead of only a 5% chance to trigger the additional attacks from Icy Retribution domain. Very nice talent and a lot of DPS increase, especially in an AoE situation. Now, just like the single target talent build, we have the ultimate talent saved for last. And this one is so ultimate, it actually overlaps the talent seed here. So let's try to read over top of this talent seed and understand what makes this so insane. After summoning the Ice Phantom Bow, automatically attack once every 0.6 seconds during battle. The attack interval is affected by haste, and immediately gains 60 stacks of Phantom Bow amplification upon entering battle. Each stack increases the damage dealt by the Phantom Bows by 7.5%. Every time the Phantom Bow attacks, the stacks decrease by 1 and can gain another 20 stacks every 5 seconds per battle. That's a lot of words. Let me try to break this down so you understand. TLDR of this talent and what makes it so sick is you start at battle with 60 stacks of Phantom Bow amplification. That means each stack gives you a 7.5% damage increase to Phantom Bow. 60 stacks is 75% times 6, which is 300% damage increase to your Phantom Bow, your Ice Phantom Bow damage. That's serious. So every time your Phantom Bow attacks, it decreases stacks by 1. But like it says here, you gain 20 stacks back every 5 seconds during battle. So as long as your Phantom Bow attacks are essentially not doing more than 20 attacks per 5 seconds, they might. But even if they don't, as long as you get this 20 stacks back, you'll basically be at max stacks or close to it almost the entire battle. So very, very amazing talent for juicing up the AoE DPS, and the potential is absolutely insane. So that's the two talent loadouts for single target and AoE, and now let's transition over to stats. So for this class, you're going to want to have as close as possible a balanced crit and determination. Ideally 40% plus as long as both the stats are balanced. So 40% crit, 40% determination. This is a bad example since they're a little bit off. Next up, you're going to want to have accuracy, ideally around 103%, but above 100% is okay to aim for. But 103% is what's going to give you the true 100% accuracy against bosses and the dragon. Then after that, you're going to want to keep your mastery above, say, 20 to 25% because it is a very nice damage increase. For those who don't know, mastery percentage is a final damage increase to your damage output. If you have an ability that will deal 100 damage and 25% mastery, you will now deal 125 damage. So keep your mastery at least above 20%. And then after these stats, then you would get as much haste and crit damage as you can without sacrificing any of those previous stats. So haste is very important, like we said earlier, because it increases your channel speed, but you don't want to chase it so much that you're sacrificing your crit determination and mastery to do so. So it is good to get as much haste as you can and crit damage, but not to sacrifice your mastery, crit, and determination plus accuracy in the process. So that's the stats you should be aiming for. And with that, I think that's basically a wrap. And as I've said this now, the screen has frozen. Give me a second. There we go. And there you have it. Now for Melomon, of course, you'll be running the Demon Hound as always for all DPS. And then you'll be running a combination of Your Turn Echo and Sharpness of Claw. Or you could swap out Sharpness of Claw for Book of Answers, for example. But generally speaking, you would be running some combination of that without question, at least Your Turn and Echo, and a third can be swapped around in certain situations. Like I said, Sharpness of Claw or Book of Answers is probably the best that you'd run in most situations. So there you have it, a complete guide to the Eagle Eye. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, hit that like button, and if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video will be uploaded. If you have any questions about the Eagle Eye, please leave it in the comments down below and we'll be happy to answer and help you out however we can. And last but not least, if you haven't joined the Discord, please do. There's a lot of fun stuff going on there all the time. I look forward to seeing you in there. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this guide, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.